enter this sacred space to voice the longings of my heart in prayer. In sacred company, I offer my love to the Holy One. I devote myself this morning to psalm and song, study and prayer. May my heart be lifted, may my thoughts be deepened, and may my soul, like the eagle, soar. 186.
At the bottom of the page. And 94 of our Siddur Mishkan Tefillah. For those of you who are joining us virtually, Please keep in mind that a PDF of our Siddur is available on the live stream underneath the link. Use a split screen or bring a second device so that you can be fully present with us and follow the services. It is such a blessing to have had the synagogue be filling up in the last few weeks. A gentle reminder that with our COVID protocols, we encourage mask wearing throughout the service. Anyone who is comfortable not wearing a mask in their place, of course, do that. But if and when you get up and move around with other people, please wear your mask at that time. For all of us just to be aware in our synagogue on this beautiful Shabbat, as we enter as a community, if it was ever necessary, there are doors in the back of the social hall at the far part to my right, your left. Through the kitchen, you could get out to the back door, of course, to my left, your right, the doors you came in and the social hall doors. And what's not always known to everybody is that behind Alexandra, up on the bima, there is an exit behind the bima that, if was ever necessary, could be accessed by all of us. 194. Sitting in your place, feeling the gravity hold you connected to the earth, the soles of your feet, the bottom of your legs. Just notice the tingling, notice your own center, and use your third eye, your inner intuition, to just scan your very physicality with a sense of gratitude for the morning, for what's working, for the day together. 194, praise to you, Adonai, our source, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you.
Baruch atah Adonai,
Rofech basar umafli la'asot. Amen. 196, breathe in, Nishima. Touch your soul, Nishama, breathing out who you choose to be this morning.
Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi. Baruch atah Adonai asher biyado nefesh kol chai v'ruach kol b'sar ish. Amen. 198, the morning of Shabbat, and each and every morning we identify an orientation of gratitude. You'll notice that Alexandra, Jack, and I will each go at our own pace, giving you permission to go at your own pace. We will come together with the blue words in the margin as a community. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech vivina lavchin bein yom uvein laila for awakening. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Bokeach Ivri, for for vision. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Matir asurim, for the ability to stretch. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Zokef kefufim, for rising to the new day 200. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who stretches the earth over the waters. Amen. Praise to you, Adonai, our source, sovereign of the universe, who strengthens our steps. Amen. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who clothes the naked. Amen. Praise to you, Adonai Hamakor, sovereign of the universe, who gives strength to the weary. Amen. Praise to you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who removes sleep from the eyes and slumber from the eyelids. 202. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Sha'asani b'tselem Elohim, for being in the image of the divine. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Sha'asani b'nei chorin, for being a free person. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Sha'asani Yisrael, for being a Jew. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Ozer Yisrael b'gvura, for purpose. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Oter Yisrael b'tifaraha, for harmony. 204. The crowning blessing of Birkot HaShachar, both the privilege and the responsibility of engaging in expansion, in learning in Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Amen.
213. Countries grow old and fall apart. Nations decline, torn. Generations grow moss and gather dust. Still every morning, a chapter of Psalms stands by the window in this synagogue, and intones its eternal chant over the world's tears. 218.
בצלצל שמה, הללו בצלצלי תרועה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, כל הנשמה תהלליה.
$2.24.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
בעלמא דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם עלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך, וישתבח, ויתפאר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי קדושה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא, ואמרו amen.
So many of our families can trace their family lineage back to the Ukraine. So many of our rabbis lived in, taught in, celebrated in the Ukraine, the Israel Baal Shem Tov, shared these words: the world is filled with signs and miracles. But we human beings get into the habit of taking our hands and covering our eyes and refusing to see. 226, we call one another into what's possible, into the miraculous, into shared prayer connected to our people everywhere as you are able. Please stand and face Yerushalayim. .228, marveling at, noticing light and darkness, day and night, celebrations and grief, and allowing the all of the world, of the universe, of nature, of the gifts of the divine to inspire us toward the shimmering lights. Together, 228. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or, uvarei choshech, oseh shalom, uvarei et hakol. Hameir la'aretz v'ledarim aleha berachamim. Uvtuvo mechadesh bechol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai. Kulam b'chokhma asita mal'a ha'aretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha ve'al me'orei or she'asita yifa'arucha selah.
Por Chadashah Tzion Ta'ir, Tzion Ta'ir. Por Chadashah Tzion Ta'ir, Tzion Ta'ir. V'nizkechu lanu, v'heira Tzion Ta'ir, v'nizkechu lanu, v'heira l'or. V'nizkechu lanu, v'heira l'or. Or Chadashah Tzion Ta'ir, Tzion Ta'ir.
130. If the morning opened with our radical amazement and our sense of establishing ourselves with gratitude, as we get into the heart of prayer, we turn to ahava, to love. First, knowing ahava from the Divine One, from God, from the Creator, and affirming our faith, and then affirming our commitment to bringing ahava, bringing love into the world. 230. Ahava rabbah ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu. Chemla gedola v'terach amalta aleinu ba'avor avotenu ve'emotenu shebatchu v'cha v'tlamdem chukei chayim kein techonenu tlamdenu hamerachem rachem aleinu v'tein belibeinu lahavin u'lahaskil lishmoa lilmod u'lilamed Lishmor v'la'asot ulkayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha be'ahava. V'ha'erinenu b'toratecha v'dahabeg libeinu b'mitzvotecha yiyachel levavenu le'ahava u'lir'a et shemecha.
עם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו נגילה ונשמחה נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך.
Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You choose us truly. You drew us near to you, your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring your one in love.
Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'hamo Yisrael be'ahava.
232, as you are able.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Baruch
Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
234.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושכננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
237 in the middle together. Life without integrity is like loosely hanging threads, easily fraying from the main cloth. While in acts of piety, we learn to understand that every instant is like a thread, raveling out of eternity to form a delicate tassel. We must not cast off the threads, but weave them into the design of an eternal fabric. Each day points to eternity. The fate of all time depends on a single moment. 236, the facing page.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
As we look to the world and hold Ukraine in our hearts, Abraham Joshua Heschel reminds us on the bottom of page 241 that it is not enough to be concerned for the life to come. Our immediate concern must be with justice and compassion in life here and now, with human dignity, welfare, security, and peace.
Amen.
As we stand on one side of the shore preparing to cross over, we know also that it is the source who guides us to the other side. 240.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot, osef elem, nora tehilot, osef elem. Shira chadasha, shibku ge'ulim l'shimcha, al sfat hayam, yachad kulam hodu v'imlechu ve'ameru, Adonai imloch, Adonai imloch, le'olam va'ed. Sur Yisrael, kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, uvteichen humecha, Yehuda v'Yisrael. Go aleinu Adonai tziva'ot shemo, Kadosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Kol Yisrael.
Amen. 243 at the bottom. In Talmud Ta'anit Aleph, 8 Aleph, Rabbi Ami taught, a person's prayer, Tfilat Amidah, is not acceptable unless one's heart is in one's hand. One's heart is in one's hand. 242.
Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. La 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'Imoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, V'zocher Chasei Avot Va'imahot, U'mibula Livnei Vneihem, Le'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai
Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah. 246.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים.
248 for all that is kadosh, that is holy.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היה נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, אדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא משיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור,
דור ודור,
לדור ודור,
דור ודור, לדור ודור
נגיד קולך. לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש. ושיבך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי.
250.
ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. מקדשי שבי שבת, כולם ישבעו ויתענתו בשבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא רצית בו וקידשתו שבת, חמדת ימי, אותו קראת השבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עוני שבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עוני שבת, זכר למעשה בראשית שבת, זכר למעשה בראשית שבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת.
This one or this one? Which one are we doing?
עוד לא אהבתי די.
All right, here we go.
באלה הידיים או לא בניתי קר, ולא מניתי מים באמצע המדבר,
Minyan.
לא תיותי פרח והוא יתייק, תוביל אותי הדרך ואנה
Make noise.
או לא אהבתי
Go right.
ברוח וחשבת
And turn.
על פניי,
Noise. Woo!
ולא אמרתי
Go right. Step.
אם לא עכשיו
Turn. Now a Mayan step going left. Here, sorry. Lean in. Mayan. Right. Go right. And turn. Go right. I thought it was time, masked as we are, to bring back the joy to our shul. Amen. For those who choose, we traditionally remain standing through the end of the Amidah, each person finding their own space, sitting or standing, dancing and praying. The traditional tefillah continues through page 260. As you have found, and as you give voice to your prayer, work your way back to your seats. feeling the calm, the quiet, the shalva, the tranquility, the possibility of prayer, the possibility of Shabbat, the possibility of the divine.
יהיו לרצון נמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי
Boy, we need it now more than ever. The third rubric of our service, we begin with gratitude and move to love and land with shalom, with peace. 258, we ask for the courage to fight for peace, the courage to insist on peace, the courage to be a rodef shalom, a pursuer of peace.
שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. שים שלום, שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. שים שלום, 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 טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים. שים שלום, שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, שים שלום.
The Torah is, of course, always with us as we are with each other, but we rise now on 362 to begin the Torah service.
אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך. מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום.
Assemble the people, men, women, and children, all the people, and those who reside in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai, your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah. And let's take responsibility for the children, all the children. Let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai, the one source.
364.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah. Udvar Adonai miYerushalayim. Se'u she'arum roshechem u'se'u pitchei olam v'yavo melech hakavod. Mihu ze melech hakavod Adonai yifru u'melech hakavod Selah.
366.
Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadol Adonai iti, uneromema Shemo Yadav.
Lecha Adonai hagidula v'hagibura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod ki ho b'shamayim u'va'aretz ki ho b'shamayim u'va'aretz Lecha Adonai hamelacha v'hamit na'aseh lecho nerosh al shlosha devarim al shlosha devarim al shlosha devarim ha'olam omeid al shlosha devarim al shlosha devarim al shlosha devarim ha'olam omeid al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gimilut chasadim al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gimilut chasadim. Lai 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 lai
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
This morning we are reading from Parshat Tzav. We are going to be reading chapter 8 in Leviticus, which can be found on page 696. Our first reader, and the honor will go to Dave Rosenthal. He will be reading verse 28 through 30. Nala Amod David mi Beit Shlomo v'Miri Pa'aliyah Harishona.
Adonai Hambarak.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarak Lelam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim. Venatan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai.
Notein HaTorah.
Me.
Amen. Okay, this is where it ends, so we're going to be right up here. 28. Vayikach Moshe. Right here. See it? I got this, yeah.
Amen. Vayikach Moshe.
Oh,
Amish.
Tom. Oh, that's not the right place, I'm sorry. Okay. No. Vayikach Moshe. Okay, hold on 1 second. So move over for 1 second. Yes, I'm wrong. That was my fault, not Dave's. Just want to hold. Mishkan HaMish- Shema Mishcha. Techalav. Right here. Okay, do you see it? Starts right here, right here, and goes there to there.
Amen. Vayikach Moshe.
Moshe.
Vaed.
Otam. Otam. 28. So, Vayikach Moshe Otam Me'al.
Okay. Amen. Vayikach Moshe. Otam Me'al HaPekem. Vayakter HaMizbecha Al Ha'olah. Iluim. Hey. Lifnei Adonai.
L'reach nichoach.
Reak Nichoach Asher
Ishehu Ladonai.
Vayikach Moshe et
Zeh.
Hazeh Vayifnehu Tunufa Lifnei Adonai.
Me'el.
Me'elham Miluim. Moshe Haya
L'mana.
Ka'asher Tzeva Adonai et Moshe. Vayikach Moshe Mishemen Hamishchan Umin Hadam Asher al Hamizbecha Peach Vayaz al Aharon al Bigday
Bigadav.
Begadav Va'al Banav
Banav.
Va'al Banav
Val Big Day.
al Bigday
Vanav.
Bana Oto Vayikadesh et Aharon, that big dove, that banav, that big day. Banav, ito.
Ito. Right here.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nata b'torkenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yesher koach,
Yeah.
David. David still has Megillah in his mind and in his heart. He's doing a lot of different readings at once.
And then if you can't start right away, it just throws you
I
off.
know. I'll take the responsibility.
I know.
My bad.
For the second aliyah, I would like to call Samantha Michaels, and I am going to continue reading on verse 31. Nala amod shena mi beit Moshe v'chana ha'aliyah ha'shenit.
Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'nata lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Moshe el Aharon el banav vashlu et habasar petach al hamoed v'sham tovlu oto ve'et halechem asher basal hamim asher tiveti lemor Aharon ubanav yochlu v'hanotar babasar u'lachem ba'esh tisrofu u'mipetach ohel moed lo titzu shivat yamim ad yom lo yimei melechem ki shivat yamim yimalei et yetchem.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'hayei olam nata b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. With the Torah open, we have the opportunity to direct our intentioning to members of our community who are struggling with challenges of body and of soul. As Alexandra chants the traditional Misha Berach, she'll pause and I will add names on our healing list and turn to you. As my eyes meet yours, please feel free to share the names of loved ones, members of the community who are in need of our attention and of God's attention on this day.
משברך אבותינו ואמותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא יברך את החולים.
Susan Bahush, Phyllis Fillmore, Ellen Futterman, Helen Krasno, Joyce Krasno, Stephanie Payusko, Claude Schleuder, Elaine Trott, continued healing for Laura Gelber, Richard Gelber, Lauren Petties, Lauren Neal.
Melvin Russian.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem L'chaklimam Urabotam Ul'chakzikam V'yishlach lahem Meira Refuah Shlema Min HaShamayim Refuat HaNefesh Urefuat HaGuf Hashta B'agalav V'zman Kariv V'nomar
For the third and final aliyah, I'd like to call Sue Hirsch, and I will continue reading on line 34. Mala Amod Mira by Hosea Barachel, Ha'aliyah HaShlishit HaMa'ir.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai
Eloheinu.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ha'asher asa bayom hazeh tiva Adonai לעשות לכפר עליהם ופתח אוהל מועד תשבו יומם ולילה 7 ימים ושמרתם את משמרת אדוני ולא תמותו כי כן צוויתי ויעש אהרון ובניו את כל הדברים אשר ציווה אדוני ביד משה.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher natan lanu Torah emet V'hayolam nata b'tukenu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Call the rabbi and P to lift and grab the Torah. Nala Amod.
Hagba v'glila.
Bezot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael Api Adonai B'yad Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah Tziva lanu Moshe. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Dvar Adonai Yerushalayim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Dvar Adonai Yerushalayim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Dvar Adonai Yerushalayim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Dvar Adonai Mirushalayim.
No Haftorah.
Oh. You're making me work. So we continue with the Haftarah on page 701 from Jeremiah. You should be looking in the blue Chumash. For those who may be reading from a different text, please turn to
Jeremiah 7:21. 7:21.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hanemarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen. Ko amar Adonai Tzevaot Elohei Yisrael Alotechem Sefu al zivchechem ve'ichlu vasar Ki lo debarti et avotetchem velo tzivitim b'yom Hotzi otam me'eretz Mitzrayim al divrei ola v'azavah ki im et hadavar hazeh tziviti otam לאמור שימו בקולי והייתי לכם לאלוהים ואתם תהיו לי לעם והלכתם בכל הדרך אשר אצווה אתכם למען ייטב לכם. If you would skip over to 7:03, Jeremiah 9:22. Ko amar Adonai al yitalel chacham בחוכמתו ואל יתהלל הגיבור בגבורתו אל יתהלל העשיר באושרו כי אם בזאת יתהלל המתהלל השכל וידוע אותי כי אני אדוני עושה חסד משפט וצדקה בארץ כי ואלה חפצתי נאום אדוני.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם צור כל העולמים צדיק בכל הדורות האל הנאמן האומר ועושה המדבר ומקיים שכל דבריו אמת וצדק על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ותפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדיש השבת.
Amen. I had two moments this morning. The first was in the middle of prayer, and I just was listening to the quiet of the sanctuary and realizing how much I love being in here, and even more as the pews begin to fill up. And the second was around the Torah reading. Eleanor Gabai and Alexandra comes down to really bring her beautiful spirit for the Misha Berach, and Jack is moving through and just assisting each of you reading Torah, the amazing Torah readers in our community, and just thinking to myself, we've done it. This is what a Torah service looks like. It's not about me doing everything. It's how we all are integrated. We're all studying together. We're all working together. You may have heard the great news that our rabbinic intern, Jack Sherritt, will be staying with us for another year. And this past year, really amazing. If you have not met Jack personally, you want to. He comes up this year once a month on a Friday and stays through Shabbat, and a second time midweek, usually on a Tuesday. Next year, the goal is he'll be able to be on the Bima with us at least twice a month or twice a month, and which will really be a pleasure. What you'll notice whenever Jack is here is that Jack provides us with his incredible wisdom, with his very on the edge learning, being a student, a rabbinical student. He is ensconced with the great thinkers of our time, and he has the opportunity to be learning in place with us. And as he does, Alexandra and I will be making certain that there are parts of the service that he can take the lead on as he hones in on what his rabbinical voice will feel like, look like, and be like in anticipation of his ordination. This morning, Jack will be leading us in the teaching of our parasha.
Thank you. Good morning, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I am delighted to be here with you. Welcome to Torah study, and to what is perhaps the longest running book club since there were books, in fact, since the beginning of time. We're reading this week from Parsha Tzav in the book of Vayikra, which I know you read also from last week's Parsha, also Vayikra, which translates as, he called, almost always in the masculine singular, even when the subject is absent. And, in the book of what we call in English Leviticus, we learn about the laws of the priests and of the Israelites' priestly tribe and all, the business of the Mishkan and later of the temple. We're not at the itchy skin bits yet. Stay tuned for lesions and discharge and all of that fun stuff and how we recover from that. So last week, Vayikra, we have the sense of being called. This week, Sav means commands. This week, we are commanded. So last week, we decided to show up. And now that we've shown up, we're told what to do. Beginning page 688, chapter 6, verse 2, we read, Zot Torah ha'olah hu ha'olah al mokdah al mitzbeach kol halayla od haboker. So we learn from these first two lines in Tzav two things. What are the two things we learn? In the English, the ritual of the burnt offering shall remain where it is burned upon the altar all night until morning, while the fire on the altar is kept going. Two things. What have we learned? All right.
How to keep a fire going all night?
Yep, that's it. It's one of them.
That the offering is a Torah. We talked a little bit about this on Tuesday morning. That I don't know if that's I think we learned more than 2 things, but
Oh,
sorry.
excellent.
But
Um,
I sit a lot with the fact that what we bring is also Torah. So that's what I wanted to say.
A preface of the Pshat was in order there. Thank you, Rabbi, for always deepening our learning. Many facets of Torah. So on the face of it, we learn 2 things: that the burnt offering is offered on the altar, and that the altar is on fire, right? So the altar is on fire, the fire burns all night, the burnt offering burns on the fire. We don't learn about how the fire is lit or where the fire comes from. It just seems to be burning. What do we make of that? Does it remind you of anything reminiscent of? I see like a motioning. The Ner Tamid, right? Midrash Rabbah Tzav teaches us that's, the fire of the altar of the Mizbeach is part of the eternal fire, the eternal flame, the Ner Tamid, and that you can only ever add to the fire, only ever add to the light. Light is one of the things that we can give of ourselves, of fire that only ever grows, that only ever gets brighter. And so we continue reading about the burnt offering on the Mizbeach, and I know some of you touched on this in Torah study last week with the rabbi about what we find in verse 612 in the Al Mukdah, on the fire, on the altar. We find a teeny tiny little mem. Does anybody remember like the commentary is on that little mem? Thoughts on why we might encounter a mem that's somewhat smaller than the other letters that indicates to us?
That we need to pay attention.
There it is. We need to pay attention in Torah study. So what's the reason for this small mem? Of course, there's lots to say, lots of commentary. I came across in my preparation for this study the suggestion that maybe the small mem, which is sort of in the fire, and the fire represents our acts of service, that we should keep our acts of service kind of quiet. We should keep our visible flame kind of small, like the small mem. That the fire of Torah should burn quietly inside. Now, I will say that I don't like that interpretation. Who am I to tell you how inflamed you should be? It should be on fire with Torah and acts of service. There's also like another sort of delightful explanation for why one may not want to be so visibly inflamed. In Midrash Rabbah, we read about Ben Azai, who when he studies Torah, he just becomes inflamed, and flames are sort of around him. And Rabbi Akiva, kind of comes to him and says, "I see that you're on fire. Have you been, thinking about the divine chariot, the secrets of the universe? Like, what are you thinking about?" And Ben Azai's, "No, I'm putting the letters of the Torah together, and that's enough. It's enough to generate this flame and the fire that's coming forth."
But Jack, I love what you said about the small mem on the altar. Reminds us that we're not the creator of the fire, but we can add to it. I loved what you said. But I also think that there's an important piece here, and especially when we spoke about the aleph last week, the small aleph, is that there is a difference between bringing our voices to the divine or confusing ourselves and imagining that we somehow are the creators of our, if you asked me on Pshat who made the flame, and I hear from evening till morning, I'm like, yeah, us, we're taking care of that flame. But I think that small mem reminds me of like our service. Maybe we are doing it. And maybe we have that privilege to do it, but it's actually not about us. And the flame is also a symbol of the divine. And we talk a lot about that, but we're not the divine. We're in service too. So I just wanted to jump in.
This is a conversation, so please, jump in, ask questions. I'm going to jump around a little bit, but back to Ben Azai. So he's inflamed with Torah. There's also in Masechet Sukkah a story of Hillel, the elder, and his students, one of whom is also inflamed with Torah, so inflamed that the birds above, as they're flying around, are burnt in his flame. Which suggests a certain power, but also devastation. And if you can imagine that that's the student of Hillel, like how powerful Hillel. And the understanding is that Hillel had, his fire was as big for Torah, it was as inflamed for Torah, but could control the flame. So that, we had no birds dying by fire, but that we continue to be engaged of acts of service and also in Torah study. There's also back to chapter 6, verse 5, the fire on the altar shall be kept burning, not to go out. Every morning the priest shall feed the wood, and the fire only ever goes on. And there is this idea that the flame of Torah, the fire of Torah, shall never die. And there are commentary about how this particular phrase, about how the light of Torah, the fire of Torah will never die, can, if you're like maybe on the verge of doing something you shouldn't do, or thinking thoughts that are leading you to do the things you shouldn't do, that you can recite this phrase that the light of Torah, the fire of Torah, shall never go out, and it help you to orient yourself to good works and whatnot. Continuing chapter 7, we're skipping now, chapter 7, verse 7. Essentially, this parsha discusses the regulations for the sacrifices and outlines the rituals of priestly ordination of Aaron and of his sons. And we read in chapter 7, verse 37. Sorry, coming up here. That's the rituals are the ritual of the burnt offering, the meal offering, the purgation offering, the reparation offering, the offering of ordination, and the sacrifice of well-being, with which the Eternal charged Moses on Mount Sinai when commanding that the Israelites present their offerings to the Eternal in the wilderness. So you may be wondering, what does any of that mean? And I'm sure Rabbi has gone over it somewhat, but we're going to take a bit of a deep dive into the various offerings. First, it's useful, or I've found it useful, to think about these offerings as being kind of in two different sections. One is sort of the offerings of the priests, the burnt offering, meal offering, the sin offering, and such. Then there's also this whole other bit about ordaining the priests, which, it gets a little messy. There's blood in the toe and the ear and such, and I'm really hoping they don't do that to me when the time comes, although who can say what will happen at HUC. But we have the burnt offering, or the Korban Olah, which is sort of brought for various occasions, sometimes together with other offerings, to sort of secure what you might consider a favorable outcome. There's also the grain offering, or the mincha offering, which is the opportunity for even the poorest, for those who maybe don't have a bull or a ram or a sheep or a dove or anything else to sacrifice, to bring an offering before the source. We have the purification offerings and the reparation offerings. These are the sin offerings, where we say, okay, I've done a thing, I'm here to atone for that, whether I did it intentionally or unintentionally. There's an offering for each of those things. And then we have the sacrifice, or the offering of well-being, the Zabach Shlamim, which is what we're going to focus on this morning. And so there is an offering for all occasions, and we're going to turn now to find out more about what these offerings are. Now, in the order that they appear, there suggests to us that there's a hierarchy. There's an order of importance. There's like the offering, the korban Allah, that you bring kind of any time you want to, to generate a favorable outcome. There's the stuff you bring when you've done a thing, and then there's the stuff that you bring sort of voluntarily as an offering of gratitude, of well-being, of shlamim, and that this shlamim offering should come last suggests that it's of the greatest importance. So two things to say, many things to say. See, I was about to lie to you, and then I was going to have to provide a sin offering. So shlamim means peace, right? And the idea that peace stands above or is the greatest of all things is reinforced, I think, by this ordering. And also we read in the Midrash, in Vayikra Rabbah, which is sort of like the commentary to the book of Leviticus, that the shlamim offering, the peace offering, is in line with this idea that peace above all things is the greatest. And when we look at the Midrash, we see that first, so great is peace that God, whose name is peace and who makes peace, well, I'm not about to call God a liar. There adjusts the truth to maintain peace in the home. So there's a story we read in Genesis about Abraham and Sarah, and Sarah, who's on in her years, is told by God that she's going to have a baby, and sort of, surprised by this news, says something that's maybe a bit disparaging to Abraham, saying, well, I have this pleasure now that I'm so old, like suggesting that maybe Abraham wasn't satisfying her in some way. And then when God relates this same story to Sarah, changes it a little bit so that their relationship, the peace in the home, the shalom bayit, can be preserved. So what does that tell us? What does it tell us about the relationship between peace and truth? The peace is more important. Do you all agree? The little white lie. Is that okay? Is it okay that we lie? Yeah. I mean,
So I go to the idea that Zevach Shlamim is, of course, the peace offering, but the root of peace, shalom, is shalem, to be whole. So, there's a different, I get very uncomfortable when we talk about white lies. And Susan, I'm looking at you because I know we've had this discussion, like in Torah study, like I'm not okay with white lies. Having said that, there are certain things that Samara's going to share with Abigail as she's ready to learn it. Now, that's not a lie. That's how she's keeping Abigail whole. That's different than a white lie. There are things that I don't need to share with you about me. There are things that I want to share with you about me, but there are things that I don't need to and I shouldn't, because it's not because I'm lying. It's because to be your rabbi and to keep you guys whole, I actually have to, there's certain things I should keep in. There's certain things I shouldn't say. That's not a white lie. I actually, in my motley crew of brothers, I had one brother who went on this kick, who walked around the house with all of the siblings and said constantly, he was going to tell us he was going to tell his truth to everyone constantly. And it was horrendous. It was horrible. Like no one wanted to live with him anymore because, what do you mean you're going to tell us? First of all, just because he thinks it's true doesn't make it true. And I don't need to give you the details, but, whatever. Like, your hair looks horrible. Well, that's your truth, but I don't know if that's my truth. So I like to think of, I love what you're saying, that peace above all else. I'm going to just say one more word. I've been watching these, there was an interview with a young person who had left the Ukraine and is now going back. And, I'm just so, I feel like I'm going to cry when I say this, but I'm so overwhelmed by the courage. Like, what does that mean for a person who goes into a war zone for that? And I think there's something about being whole that we all have to be with. So I just want to hold the idea of wholeness. I love the idea of peace. And how am I going to be whole with myself? And whole with others.
Well, and I think that that's what the Midrash does, is it centers peace, but in the way that it centers peace is almost entirely relational, right? And so we read that, God makes peace in the home, God makes peace in the heavens, God makes peace even when peace seems unlikely, like in times of war or in death or in the wake of idolatry. Peace is given and peace is withheld, to the people who repent and who are righteous, peace is given. The people who are wicked, peace is withheld. But ultimately, what the Midrash is saying is that peace in relationships is of the utmost priority. And so, does that mean that we're permitted to lie in order to preserve those relationships? That really is a question. Are we permitted to lie to protect people, to protect their feelings, to maintain the peace? And is peace of a greater value than truth? And I'll tell you, I don't know. I generally believe in the truth, and I believe that people are entitled to the truth. After all, if you lie to people, it deprives them of the opportunity to experience reality directly. And in that way, you're taking something from them. You're stealing something from them, their experience of reality, by manipulating it. And that way, it's like a kind of a theft, which, as we know, is not permitted. Michael, yeah.
Just a thought. So there are facts. A fact is not necessarily the truth. So, pick the fact of your choice. What does that say about the truth of what's happening? And I think that goes, it's not a white lie. Truth doesn't mean lie. Because if you're saying truth is about the facts, but that's not the case. Truth is more complex than just a fact.
And the fact that you can have two truths at once.
Precisely. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that I really do think that there's sometimes it would be so hurtful to tell someone the truth to them that it's better not to. I really do.
I don't know if everyone heard, but I think that's a fair point that Vicky makes. That
For you to choose, not for them.
another fair point. Sorry? Oh, sorry.
Well, we have points of view, and our points of view can change, so it's not truth or a lie, it's kind of like a gradation of understanding.
I think that, we can hold these two ideas simultaneously. Telling the truth can hurt people we prefer to protect, but telling lies, there's a danger in that as well, right? It's there's a danger in compromising the very relationships that you're lying to protect. Somebody finds out that you lied or that you weren't straightforward with them, they ultimately find out the truth. There's the potential of putting relationships in jeopardy. And I do believe that, every lie incurs sort of a debt to the truth. The truth is the truth, whether it's told or not. And, as we often find out, and we all well know that the truth will catch up with us. I think the great thing is that when it comes to promoting peace, or repairing relationships, lying isn't the only option. There are other ways to promote and nurture peace in relationships. And so when relationships suffer, or when peace doesn't feel possible, or relationships feel like they're fractured beyond repair, there's what? Or maybe who is the question? There's God, right? There's not as a last resort, obviously, but when our equanimity is threatened, whether it's in relationships or between individuals, or and even in our relationship with God, God is there to remind us that God is an active agent, partner, collaborator in peace.
And in truth, I'm actually just thinking about something that, it's so interesting to sit here because then I can process differently. I think the one place where I always feel fully honest and truthful is when I'm sitting with the Divine One, when I'm sitting with the sacred. So I just want to hold that as an extension of what you're teaching us.
Thank you. And again, more is required of us, right, than the truth, and more is required of us than promoting or prioritizing peace. More vulnerability, more resourcefulness, introspection, openness, more guts, more heart, more grit. Right? There's more to it.
I think, but God is only your partner in your truth if you invite him in. If you do not, and you put us a wall, then you're not going to have that partnership. And I think that's the important part of it, how do we let him in to either partner?
So the point being made is that, God is only your partner if you invite God to partner with you. And maybe that's what the sacrifices are about, right? Maybe that's why in this sort of post-temple periods where we're no longer checking, this and that, and burning the flesh on the altar, that we engage in acts of service as an expression of commitment to an engagement with the divine. Any thoughts on that idea?
Well, I guess I have a question. We were back at 7:37, and it lists all the sacrifices, but the sacrifice of well-being, I thought we could talk about. What is that?
The sacrifice of well-being, the shlamim. Yeah. We can talk about that. Does anybody have any initial thoughts or specific questions about the shlamim? To me, in reading this in this parsha, reminded of the korban todah, the Thanksgiving offering, like when we bench gomel and we're expressing gratitude, and it's a willing, a voluntary offering of thanks. And I find this especially interesting on a number of fronts. In addition to it being voluntary, it's this sort of thing that we say when we've come through something that's life-threatening. And what does that mean? What does it mean to have your life threatened?
To feel very vulnerable, to feel very human, to notice one's fragility for me.
To notice one's fragility. Yes. And also, generally, yes, true. And also the text, the Midrash, has a very specific understanding of like what it means to have your life threatened. And this is an offering that you bring under very specific circumstances. What are they? If you have crossed over a body of water, you've sailed the seas, which of course is not so common these days as we fly in planes, we drive in cars. But if you were in a plane and you fly over across the water, you may consider offering this offering of thanks for not having fallen from the sky. One is also instructed to say this offering if just released from prison. It's another opportunity that one has to say to bench gomel. When you're recovering from an illness, if you've been very sick and now you're on the other side, you may consider offering your gratitude for that. And then, of course, traveling through the desert, which as a people we know well, we don't generally cross over water, more through, that's how the story goes. And so we offer this offering of thanks and of gratitude, and along with the offering itself, whatever the physical offering is, the animal that's shechted for the offering, there's also an offer of loaves. It's an offering of bread, specifically 40 loaves of bread. This is what the Midrash teaches. The idea of why 40? What does the number 40 signify? What is it? Crossing the desert. How long were we in the desert? 40 years. What else? What's that?
Yeah, absolutely.
40 days of Noah's Ark.
Absolutely.
What else? Right. Accessible offering. Great.
40 days that Moses was up on Sinai.
40 days on Sinai.
So
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you said for a minute, because I really think it is this idea that, again, listening, when you cross the sea, when we're in the sea, don't you feel, think about the small mem, now that we're talking about 40, and mem is the numerical value for 40. When you're in the sea, when you realize how small you are, that's when we have this sense of the divine being so present in our life. And I'm just going to say this again. If you're feeling it like I'm feeling it every day with what's going on in Ukraine, in a split moment, people just like us are losing everything, right? The one person I heard interviewed yesterday or this week who said, a woman with a baby, and said, you know, a month ago, I had dreams and I had plans, and now I have neither. That this sense of, wow, I didn't fall out of the plane, or wow, this giant ocean, and I crossed over the second piece of that, how small I am, my own fragility, and that's where my faith is like, there is something bigger than me. I actually, lately, when I fly, I used to love to fly. I once thought I'd be a pilot. I used to jump out of planes, and now I think, every time I get in that piece of metal, and it takes off and it lands, I think, what a miracle. What a miracle.
It's like a time-traveling tube. Like you get into a tube on the ground, and then the tube moves, you sit and have a snack, and then you're in a different place. It's miraculous. It's miraculous, right? So this number 40, it keeps reappearing throughout the text and throughout the history. What does it suggest to you? We've heard we're on the ark, 40 days, we're in the desert, 40 years. We're on Sinai, 40 days. And now we have 40 loaves. As we've come through sort of a harrowing experience.
As God sustained us, so I can actually be part of sustaining for the people who bake, right? I can sustain myself and others.
Mm-hmm. Great. Other thoughts? I mean, there's a sense of transformation, right? Of change or of renewal. We've kind of come out on the other side of something. You know, there's a great flood. You know, we end up on the other sides. There's a vast expanse of desert. We end up on the other sides. You know, Moses ascends up Mount Sinai. We receive the Torah, and we are on the other side. We've been transformed. We've been changed. And so too, as we're acknowledging the recovery from illness or the safety in arriving at our destination without injury or complications, we're aware that we've come through from one place to another, and so we offer 40 loaves. The number 40 is significant also for another reason. In fact, it's the number 39 is significant. 40 minus 1 is the construction that we come across in the rabbinic texts, specifically the prohibitions against creative acts on Shabbat. How many? 40? How many? 39. 40 minus 1. Close. And a bit of a dark turn. How many lashings is one permitted to dole out as punishments? 40 minus 1. 39. I mean, it could be, 50, minus 11. It's still the same. So the minus 1 brings us from 40, which is the sense of like transformation and completion, to 39. It's a step down. And this is the number of restrictions on Shabbat, the number of lashes that one is able to deliver. Any idea of why that might be? Why 40 minus 1? Why not just 40? Why not 25? Why not any other number?
40 is holy, then 39 is not.
Yeah.
Because you're missing God.
Beautiful. Because you're missing God. Other ideas? There are no right answers, of course. We're all just talking. Other thoughts? So this.
Does that imply that when you're lashing someone, God's not with you? I hope so.
Well, typically, why is somebody lashed? Why does that happen? Of course, we don't condone that. It should never happen. People should not be hurt. And it's here. It's in our text. It's in Deuteronomy. To be punished.
They've done something that threatens our continuity and our ability to go forward.
Yep. It's a corrective, right? So something you've done needs to be corrected. And the idea is that, you're lashed and then you go on, having learned your lesson, to not do that thing again. The step from 39 to 40, whether it's like Shabbat restrictions, which of course clears the way for you to just be with the divine on Shabbat. It's just one step. It's one more thing to get to this number, this place of wholeness or completion or transformation. It's one lash between like the 39 that you get and like the place where you've committed to living a different life. One step. So it's 40 minus 1 because we need to take that step. We need to take that one step towards being whole with our Creator, one step towards being our best selves, one step to 40. So this is the offering of Gomel, of the 40 loaves. I don't have a good sense of how much time.
So you want to bring your last point.
Okay.
So we want to, because normally what we want to do is just wrap up all of that.
Okay. So just as a final point, we started in a place of humility of your small mem, whether it's a small contribution. There are no small contributions. Every contribution adds to the fire. Every small act of service is a contribution to service to God. Ending also thoughts on humility. We learn from chapter 7, verse 1, that there's different sections of the Mishkan where the sacrifices take place. You've checked the sin offerings over here, and then the meal offerings over here, and there's a kind of a different corner for all of these things to happen. But the Korban Olah, which anybody can bring under any circumstances, happens in the same place as the sin offering. The text tells us that. That's where the animal is checked for the Olah, for the Korban Olah, so too is the sin offering. Why should that be? Not supposed to kill? So that nobody can tell the difference. They don't know if you're there because you are just, you're trying to bring about a favorable shidduch for your whomever, or you're trying to, tip the scales in your favor, or if you've done a thing. And so what it does when these two things happen in the same place is it maintains the dignity of everyone who's bringing the offering, so that you can't tell one from the other. And this is consistent with our practices in Shemona Esrei, and when we say Ashamnu on Yom Kippur, we don't.
We don't need everybody to know what we've done. Of course, we come clean, with this source, but as a matter of like public admission, that's not what our tradition asks of us. And so these two things happen in the same place, so that one need not be additionally shamed as they're trying to bring about.
And Jack, I actually love that you're saying this, and we've talked a lot of times when we focus on all this list of, I'm looking at Evie, this list of these sacrifices. This morning when I was listening to Jack teach, I thought, man, this is amazing. Whatever it is that you need to bring into your sacred space, your mishkan, your sanctuary, whatever your prayer is, whatever your offering is, it's not just one kind, that there's a spaciousness here that I can bring my prayer, I can bring my offering, Ellen can bring her offering, Samantha can bring her offering, and Dave can bring his offering, and there's space. I was just really intrigued by the long list that I usually also get a little put off by, but suddenly it felt like an opening, not a closing. And then to add Jack's point that we're protected in this place, to be able to, we each bring what we need to bring, and I don't get inside Gail's head or inside P's head. P brings what P needs to bring. Gail brings what Gail needs to bring, and there's that space that we share.
And just in closing, I will say that some of the offerings can be eaten and some of them cannot. So,
and then we'll keep talking about that. Yeah. This is for you.
Oh.
From Abigail.
I love that.
Page 368. As you are able, please rise. I'm sorry. Page 374. As you are able, please rise. Yahalalu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado.
Odo haaretz v'shamayim, vayarem kerem le'amo, tehila lechol hasidov, livnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Ki lekach tov natati lachem torati al ta'azovu.
Itchayim hi
Lemachazikim
lemachazikim
ba
v'tomchecha
meushar
tirachecha
darchei noam v'chol netivotecha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh aleinu Chadesh aleinu bekedesh. One of the gifts of having Jack here, even beyond the gifts that Jack brings to us. Jack introduced Alexandra to one of his peers, cantorial student Iris Carlin's new Aleinu. And as Alexandra and Jack planned together, we turned to the Aleinu 587, welcoming this newly created melody.
Aleinu lishabiach livativil livoilamol letikun olam ki bechoinu liv
A moment for announcements. The confirmation class community service will be held tomorrow from 2 to 4 on the rain date. Thank you in advance to the students, the 9th and 10th graders, and to board members who will be joining them. I look forward to seeing you at Montrepose at 2 p.m. There is the Zimmet Learning Adventure tomorrow at 9:30. Our annual Women's Seder is back. It will be a virtual program on Sunday afternoon, April 3rd at 2 p.m. Please RSVP to Bonnie Lober at blober@hvc.rr.com or contact the main synagogue about your desire to be part of this wonderful opportunity. The Zimmet Learning Adventure has an open house on Sunday, April 24th. Please reach out to friends and neighbors who you think would like to learn more about our religious school and or give them Jonathan's number or give Jonathan their number. Zemmer is inviting you to be part of the regular preparing of holiday and Sabbath new musical pieces. Alexandra's eager for people to join in who have never done it before, to sing together with those who are our regulars. There's a new class, an Intro to Judaism class with me, beginning in April. This is made up of both people who just have never had the opportunity to learn the fundamentals of Judaism, everything from liturgy, reading Hebrew, life cycle, prayer, holidays, as well as a taste of contemporary thinkers and much more. Please contact the main office or me if you'd like to be part of this class. We'll be meeting twice a month. There is a Ukraine action group that is communicating regularly by email. You can reach out to my assistant, Jessica, at assistant@cehv.org. On our website, there are 2 organizations that I have recommended that are preparing humanitarian aid so that you can be part of the healing in the Ukraine and sustaining those who are ravished by the horrors of war. And our congregation by next week is going to open a drive for medical supplies. Look out for the special email. Alla Pinsky will be picking up medical supplies from our synagogue and bringing them to the Kurhansksin Ukrainian church so that we can even do more than we are already doing. Our ongoing push for the CEHV Food Access and Security Initiative as we partner with the Blue Fridge on Clinton Avenue is ongoing. I said last night, it will be ongoing until there are no more people in our no more of our neighbors that are finding it difficult to access food, to be food secure. So until that happens, I trust that we'll all do what we can to provide for our neighbors. Please pick up a brown bag on your way out. It's got the instructions, as well as look on our website and you can be guided about what is most needed and where and how to drop it off. Membership and welcoming. Thanks the people that are presently being greeters this evening, this morning. I want to thank Dr. Michael Friedman, who has been regularly showing up on Saturday mornings as one of the greeters. There's room for everybody. If you haven't had the privilege of doing this, please call the main office and make sure that once a year, once a season, once a month, whatever it is that you can do, that you can be the face of our congregation and open the door and welcome people in. Everyone can be part of this. All of our protocols for COVID-19 as they are changing so that you feel comfortable and ready when you come are on our website. And a special thank you to Barry Cohen, who makes our services accessible to anybody who is not able to be with us in person, and to each of you. What a thrill for the three of us to have you here this morning. My friends who are with us virtually, the numbers are filling up, and everyone's so respectful. It is okay if you're in your place to sit without your mask, and then when you get up and go to other people to wear the mask. And as I look out, I also noticed that we are encouraging masks, and most people here in the sanctuary are wearing their mask throughout the service. Just thank you for the ways that you're taking care of one another, and this is and remains a safe place. Page 593. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty, but soon it fades. Its substance is consumed and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our lives are full, but as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and we are no more seen, yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory. Slowly fading into the darkness, with our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and of life. Members of this congregation are observing their Shloshim and their Shana, their 30 days of grief and their year of grief. I have this full list with me and I'm holding it in my heart. We are with you as you walk through your grief and Kaddish, Amirat Kaddish. And these are the names of our congregants whose blessings of memory are with us, those who died in this season in years past. Austin Avery, Pauline Simon's partner. Evelyn Blanchard, Laurie Blanchard's grandmother. Manya Ewig, remembered by Barbara Ronder. Sue Harrington, Jerry Harrington's mother. Beverly Jacobson, Henry Klein. Myrna Levine, Judy Tallerman's mother. Gela Bat Milach Vachaya, Gertrude Fox Miller, Marty Miller's mother. Rose Nadan, Marshall Nadan's mother. Bernard Rosen, Marilyn Rosen's brother. Sarah Schoenberger, Peggy Christiana Seyfarth, Linda Sumbers' cousin. Tilly Stern, Dr. Henry Taylor, Skit Rubino's father. Eva Taylor, Skit Rubino's mother. Max Wachtel, Pauline Simon's father. Viola Wachtel, Pauline Simon's mother. Fritz Weintraub, Ida Werbolowski. May their memories be for a blessing. It is our tradition to stand shoulder to shoulder, those who are able to support one another in saying Kaddish. It is our tradition to weave the blessings of memory and to honor the lives of people of every race and nation who live their lives as a blessing to humanity. 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam ulalmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'halal, Shmei dekudesha barichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tush b'chata v'nechemata, Da'amiram bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol b'nei Adam v'imru. Amen. We close with Ein Keloheinu on page 626.
Ein Eloheinu, Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu,
Mi Eloheinu,
Mi Adoneinu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemoshienu, No Deladoneinu, No Deladoneinu, No Delamalkeinu, No Delamoshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adoneinu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Abigail is such a big girl that even with wine inside, I know that she can hold the Kiddush cup straight.
You got it.
Savri, full of joy, with blessings overflowing on this Sabbath, and sending our blessings to all those who need it. Savri, Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei Pari Hagafen. Amen. L'chaim. Abigail, could you take the cover off the challah? And then could you pick up the challah with the plate, and with the plate, sweetie, and turn and face everybody? Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Great. You want to put that down? Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
This is Ellen challah, so everyone's going to want some. I just want to gently remind you that as you're munching, step back from other folks. And I actually am going to go back toward the